Hello, hello. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you do all those crazy YouTube things that you're supposed to do, like and share and subscribe and comment. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate it. This is going to be the first episode on my work page, and we're going to talk to a really, really good friend of mine, Mr. George Batista. For those who don't know me, I think you do. Charlie Mack here, but George Batista, someone who I worked with many years ago. He is a great person to know, especially when it comes to nutrition, health, and wellness. I'm going to introduce George and talk a little bit about yourself, what you do, the space that you live in. I know that you also have a podcast as well. Talented musician, overall great guy, great human being. George, thank you for joining me today.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate it. So tell the people where you're from and how you got started on your health and fitness journey and what you do on a daily basis.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I'm born and raised in New York. I was actually born in the Bronx, in the Boogie Down Bronx, and
Nice.
I got into the nutrition and health field when it actually started when I was younger. I was always into working out and fitness and health and that type of thing. I used to work out a lot, especially in my early 20s, like lifting weights and all that. And my cousin and I used to do it. Then, but throughout that time, I was dealing with a lot of issues, health issues. So I was dealing with a lot of things like chronic bronchitis and, stomach problems, that, all different types of digestive issues. I had severe allergies. I had, I started developing back problems, just a whole bunch of things. And I always thought that, well, I'll just work out and I'll just take protein and don't worry, it'll all go away. Well, as time went along, it got worse and worse and worse, and I would take all the over-the-counter medication, that type of thing. So, as I got older, I was, my mindset was, there's got to be another way to fix this. It's got to be another way. I can't just keep going this way because it's just getting worse and worse. So I started to do some research on, just health in general and supplements and herbs and all these types of things. And I said, you know what? I kind of became my own experiment. So I said, let's start experimenting with the stuff and, and just start taking the stuff and see how it works. So little by little, I started changing my diet, really kind of, refining it to, little stricter and kind of cutting out a lot of the crap, basically, and started taking a lot of supplements and stuff like that. And I noticed over time that things started to get better. My allergies started to disappear little by little. My bronchitis got less and less. My back pain started going away. All these things started to happen. So then that's kind of gave me the realization of, what, there's something to this. I can do this. So I really dove into nutrition and fitness and all this. And I ended up getting certified in nutrition. I started taking courses and I just got obsessed with it. Now it's funny because you mentioned me as a musician. A lot of people know me as a musician for many, many years, but they don't realize that I was also like a nutrition and fitness fanatic too. Mm-hmm. So, and then my next thought was, well, if I was able to do this, I'm sure I could help other people do this. Right. So then it kind of segued into friends and family, started giving some tips on health and fitness to friends and family. And then from there, it started to go to people who weren't friends and family. So I started to get emails and texts and stuff like that. So it kind of just branched out from there. And I've helped people now all over the world with different types of health, concepts and fitness. And I've done consulting and stuff. And now what I do is I'm kind of like a health educator now, I consider myself. So I have a successful podcast and, I answer a lot of questions and I just, my goal is to make people as healthy as possible so they and have them take responsibility for their health. So that's what I'm doing now.
You hit something really, really important, especially now. You have to take care of yourself. And there's many different ways to do that. Your website, platinumnutritionals.com, a lot of really useful information. People, you should check that out. platinumnutritionals.com. And I know George for, wow, crazy to think, almost over a decade and a half now.
Yes. Yep.
Man,
Yep.
Getting old. But it's like you said, as you get older, you can get into some pretty bad habits
Right.
very quickly, and I looked up a lot of different things. And my fitness journey, I just look at my military days. My entrance into the military, the most I weighed was 145, like a little
Right.
toothpick. You know, always active every single day. 6 a.m. wake up. Till you hit the sack. 2,300 hours. It's very easy to get out of those habits, and you
Right.
kind of have to tip the scales in your favor. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that.
Hmm.
I'm going to cover some things in health and mental fitness as well. I do want to thank the service members who are watching today. Thank you for
Absolutely.
your service. And just ways to take care of yourself physically and mentally as well. I know you're going to talk about something important as well, as the immune system, right? Our
Right.
natural body can fight off a lot, but we got to
Exactly.
keep it in tip-top shape.
Yes, we do.
Um, you know, some people are into this. I'd like to get your thoughts about, tracking gratitude, making journals or entries on certain things. I started to do this recently. This is just kind of new to me, but tracking what makes you happy. And that's just trying to keep your mindset in the right place for fitness, right? Oh,
Right.
man, I got to go to the gym today.
Right.
No, right? Hey, you know what? I did 5 push-ups today. I'm great. Today I'm going to do 6
Right.
tomorrow, right?
Right.
Just kind of keep yourself. What do you think about tracking fitness journals?
I think it's great. I think if you're going to be consistent with it, I think it's absolutely great because it keeps you honest, right? And the big thing about it is you get to see progress. So if you're consistent with it, let's say from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, and you can look back and you can say, "Wow, this is where I was at the beginning of the month, and this is where I am now."
Mhm.
And it's whether you're doing it for food, whether you're doing it for fitness, or whatever it is that you're doing it. I think it's a great idea, but it also, again, you talked a little bit about the mindset. The mindset of health and fitness is the number one thing, because if you don't have that mindset, nothing else matters, because you're not going to stay consistent with it, right? So I think it's a great idea to do that.
People will always try to look for that cheat day, which
Yeah.
can be okay, right? A day here, a
Yeah,
day there.
absolutely, nothing wrong with it.
But like you said, holding yourself accountable
Right.
is very
Exactly.
important.
Absolutely.
Something else that kind of comes up in my space, and for a lot of people, I think they know, but I'll just kind of go over this again. George and I worked for a company, and not going to say the name, but we were both recruiters. We both had specialized jobs, and we would always be looking for employees to work in security and to work in maintenance and executive protection and fire safety. And I look at it now, there are no standards in regards to health and fitness, where if you're going into the fire department or police department or anything along those lines in the military, you had to maintain certain physical standards.
Mhm.
And it was fun. I mean, if in the military, if we did our push-ups in a certain amount of time, we did our sit-ups in a certain amount of time, and we ran our 2 miles in a certain amount of time, we get a patch, we get a little extra money. The private sector is a little hard to do that. They can't regulate those things in that manner. So, George started his journey into that space, and I'm getting into that now. I'm a self-defense instructor, became a group fitness trainer. I'm getting into that space as well. So I also want to help in those roles as well. Sending a thank you note. I couldn't send you a note, so I just sent you an email and said, George, join me tonight. I appreciate everything you did for me. And you hooked me up with E-Trade or Share Builder back in the
Air
day.
Builder back then, it's E-Trade now. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I was, yeah. First of all, Charlie was the guy who sat down with me when I first started over there, and actually said, "Hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're recruiting. This is how we're interviewing." I don't know if you remember that, but you actually started me off on that in that whole process. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, and it's been a friendship ever since. So I appreciate it.
And you hit something important as well. Like work is work, but fitness it's a lifelong thing, right until you die.
No,
But you
absolutely.
want to stay in tip top shape, be around as long as possible, because basically anyone who's never made a mistake has never really tried anything new. This is new to me. I know that you've done this stuff before. If you haven't seen his podcast, go check it out. Check out his website. Really, really cool. This is new to me. Yeah, if I make a mistake, I learn, I move on. So that's one of the things I want to let all of you know as well. Try, put your foot forward, do it. You can.
Absolutely.
one of the pieces of information I was going through CDC websites, some statistics from New York State Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. The average person sits 6.5 hours per day. And this is from the Mayo Clinic, which I thought was a little crazy. Most people have sedentary lifestyles.
Right.
So for the people that are live now, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll pin them up. I'll answer them, or George will answer them. But, you think about that for a day. You sleep, hopefully, that's important, 8 hours a day. Most people will travel 1 to 2 hours, depending on where they work at. And then they sit for 6 hours. Not good for the body.
No, sitting is the new smoking. It's really bad. And a lot of people don't realize that when you're sitting for that long, when you get up and you actually start to move, it takes time for your systems to actually start to work properly again, including your blood sugar system. Okay. It's not just an instant thing. So that's why, when you're sitting for a long time, that lifestyle is not good at all.
The circulatory system, the skeletal system.
Correct.
Little by little, you start to put it off kilter.
Right. Absolutely.
Question that actually came up. So I put this out everywhere. I wanted everybody to see this stuff, ask as many questions beforehand. Someone asked, someone who's a little bit older, I don't want to give their age, but they wanted to know, what should the goal of activity be for the day? And all of the studies kind of show, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. I think that's kind of like the canned answer.
Right.
But let's hear your thoughts. What do you think the goals should be?
Well, that's a good marker if you want to use that. Okay. First of all, I get a lot of questions. This is questions I've answered this question so many times, because people want to know, what's the right exercise? What should I do? Should I lift weights? Should I do cardio? And honestly, the answer I give them all the time is, the activity that you're going to do is the one that you're going to stick to. That's the best one to do. Okay. Because it doesn't matter whether if you're lifting weights or you're doing cardio, whatever it is, if you're not sticking to it, it's not helping you. Okay. So a lot of people hate exercise. A lot of people, they dread it every time they want, they go into a gym or whatever the case may be. So I say, listen, find something that you enjoy doing. Put a pair of headphones on, walk around your block 5 times. Everybody, most people can walk, right? Most people can walk, right? So walk around your block and get that rhythm going. You want to get that heart going. But, if you can do that minimum 3 times a week, that's minimum. Okay. If you can stretch it to 4 or 5, that's great. But the minimum 3 times a week, if you can do it for 30 minutes, fantastic. The issue is, people's lives are so busy. Right? They're going to work. They're by the time they get home, they're exhausted. They may have kids. They may have to drop those kids off at some soccer practice or whatever. Then they come home. Then they have to cook. Then they have to do. So by the time they actually have any time, it's like already time to go to bed and they're shot. So that's the tricky part, right? So you have to kind of navigate that piece. So sometimes you may have to wake up a little earlier in the day. If you wake up at 6, and this is something I've done. Wake up at 5:30. If I know I'm not going to have time later to do a workout, I'll wake up a little earlier, do it earlier in the morning. But little things you can do, because remember, it's not just doing it once. Over time is where you're going to see the results. Yeah. So at least 3, but if you can do it 5 days, absolutely.
Yeah, for me now, I'm not trying to be the strongest or the most athletic. I'm just trying to build myself a consistent routine just to be mobile. I'm not looking for strength conditioning, just mobile. Just being able to be flexible.
Right.
One of the other things that I came across, and this was not really news to me, but just to share with people, going to the CDC's website, cases that have actually gone up over the past 3 years. And these 3 have always been high up there on the charts: heart disease, stroke, and diabetes.
It's and again, it's a combination of, again, the sedentary lifestyle, the diet, all the things that we're dealing with, the stress, right? It's a combination. Now we're seeing children diagnosed with these type of ailments, where 50 years ago you didn't see that. Right. But now actually we have kids on diabetes medication. We have kids on high blood pressure medication. They're teenagers walking around like this. It's crazy.
Extrapolating that data, some of the earliest age cases from that study were children
Yeah.
in elementary school.
Look at that.
And these are fifth and sixth graders. Scary statistics. So important to stay active.
Definitely.
Melanie, Lisa, good evening. Hope you're doing well. We're talking about food and nutrition as well as mental and physical health. 5 worst foods or drinks to consume. I hope you don't have that in your cup. No soda. Soda's bad. Donuts. It took me forever to get off donuts. Just building those routines. I used to be eggs and juice. Little by little, I'm on the go. Coffee and donut. Like that was always my thing.
Yeah, and that's part of also, again, the fast lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just grabbing the quickest thing and going.
You talk about quick food, French fries, potato chips, fried foods, all fast food stuff.
Yeah.
It's cheap, it's easy, it's quick. I can get in, I can get out, I can go to my next thing. And I think little by little, we've kind of lost that along our way to just kind of stop, pause, and reflect of what's going on around us.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that, I know those are definitely mine, but what would be some other things you would say are on the no list? Worst foods or drinks?
Well, I mean, yeah, those are the big ones. But and I know so many people who drink soda. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. But I mean, sugar. I mean, in general, sugar. It could be cookies and cakes and that type of thing. People are just so, and you want to talk about the immune system, right? The sugar depresses the immune system. If you've taken a lot of sugar, it actually coats the cells of the immune system where they can't see pathogens, and it does that for a number of hours. So, one of my biggest thing is reduce your sugar. If you want your immune system to be in top shape, reduce the sugar. That's a big one, and that's one of the ones that leads to the heart disease, the cancers, and the diabetes, and all that type of stuff.
There's a couple of studies on this too, and I don't have the infograph to show, but it'll give you the breakdowns of grams of sugar per content.
Right.
So you look at some of these sodas, handfuls of sugar, basically.
Yeah.
I have my coffee in the morning. I've learned to kind of wean myself off of soda for the most part.
Right.
But you get that craving, and it's just funny. That craving should kind of tell your mind something. Your mind is trying to fight with your body. I want it.
Right. Right. It's a tough battle because you're so used to that, and it's working on those receptors in the brain. It's basically saying, listen, we need this. I gotta have this. And it's a tough battle. That's you have to have a lot of willpower in that, unfortunately, but it's it can be done.
I gotta say too, the majority of things I've cut out, and this kind of led to it as well. I recently had one extraction, a tooth crack. I had to have it pulled. Mm-hmm. And just years and years of bad hygiene, but also bad food choices as well. Right. So during that time frame, I lost a little weight because of that. But getting rid of sugar and sodas, I lost about 5 pounds within a week with no problem whatsoever.
Look at that!
But your body and your mind does feel it.
Yeah.
A couple of people asked this, and I thought this was a really, really good question. I'll let you answer this one. How do you define physical and mental health?
And that's such a
that's kind of broad.
It's such a broad question because remember, physical health and mental health can mean different things to different people, right? But sure. This is how I personally defined it, and it's kind of the way I live. Health in general, whether it's physical and mental health, for me, is the ability to live my life as close to, and treat my body as close to the way nature intended it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that includes, again, eating foods that we were supposed to eat, treating your immune system the way it's supposed to be treated so it can work properly. Okay. Staying away from things that are, that are processed, that are really not nature type of foods. When it comes to the mental side, de-stressing, doing things that can help you, because obviously, look, you could turn on the news. We have, as much stress as you can possibly think of on the news today, right? So unplugging from that, because that also actually depresses immunity, by the way, that that anxious feeling, which brings out those the cortisol and the adrenaline and those types of things, right? So, doing things that help you, whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's just sitting quietly, different things that you can do. But again, I like to be in control of my health, and part of my podcast is taking control of your health, right? Because a lot of people don't realize how much control they do have over their health. And then also, again, living as close to nature as possible.
A great answer, and when this came up, I was like, there's 100 different ways that you could answer this, and it may be tailored a little different to everyone for a lot of different reasons. So age will play a factor. Like, I had this question from a young person. And when I say young, 18, 19, that's how I know I'm becoming an old fart. You young, for me, it's, playing basketball all day, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, which is great, right? That's what you should be doing. Get out there, be active, and do your thing. For someone who might be a little bit older, they may just want to be mobile, be able to get around from point A to point B. Right. As we get older, some people get some disabilities, which they may need assistance with, but they still want to be mentally involved with their environment around them and be in control of their body. And Lisa has a question. I'm going to pin that up right now. Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate your question. Wow. Great question. How long does it take for a person to detox from soda so you don't go back? I got to say, for me, one day I wanted to snap someone's neck without soda. So that's just me.
You have to understand that it took your body a while to get used to soda. How many, let's say if you've been taking it for many years. So just stopping soda just for a couple of days or a week is not going to cut it. It does take your body a while to detox. Now, keep in mind that everybody's different. Everybody's body chemistry is different. Everybody's health issues are different, right? So it's not a specific time frame that for every single person, because one person, they could do it in 2 weeks. One person could do it needs 2 months. So it's a little bit different for everybody, but you would start to see that if you're consistent with stopping the soda, okay, when you start to realize that you no longer crave it is when you're starting to see the result, when you're starting to actually know you're making progress, right? It could be the same thing could be said about smoking or whatever the case may be, yeah. But you start to realize, you know what, I don't need this anymore, and I don't crave this anymore. I used to be a big red meat eater. Okay, I was a big, steak and ribs, eater and yes. That type of thing. Yeah.
No, it's no good. Yeah.
No, I mean, I do eat meat, just so you know. I mean, I lean chicken, fish, turkey, that type of stuff. But I haven't eaten red meat in probably 20 years now. But it took a while for me because I was craving it. I was like, oh, I could use a steak right now. I could use, But it took me a good like 5 to 6 months to get out of that. So again, it's different for everybody. But if you start to, when you realize that you're no longer thinking about it and you no longer crave it, then you're making progress.
Yeah, and it could be said not just for soda, but a lot of different things. The way your body metabolizes
Correct.
Certain things. Alcohol for me was a big one. When I was in my late teens, 20s, every night, hey, I'm gonna go out. Let's go out, have a beer. Let's go have a beer. And then one would turn into 2 beers, and then 2 would turn into 4 beers. And then, you got the Irish Charlie Mack on the dance floor with, 8, 9, 10 beers. But as I've gotten older, I really have gotten away. I don't drink like that, maybe on occasion if I'm at a social event. But,
right.
Your body takes a while to get used to something
mm-hmm.
and then used to not having it for a while.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And keep in mind that, the studies show that it takes 21 days to form a habit.
Yeah.
Right? So, that's a good marker for people to start with. Let's get to the 21-day mark. And then from there, you can use a journal for that as well. And then let's see if we can get to the next 21 days and then just take it, from there.
Yeah. Lisa, that's a great comment that you mentioned, getting back to yoga, right? Getting into good habits. It doesn't mean you have to be, super perfect all of the time.
No.
Show and tell portion of the show. We're going to do show and tell on my shows as we go forward. Just what helps me stay in a good habit. What I do every morning when I get up, check all my readings, get my little statistics going. It keeps my mindset. Hey, You started the day off fresh. You just got up. Don't do anything bad, stupid. All right. We're from Brooklyn. We'll slap you in the throat. But, just kind of checking my pulse. And we'll kind of do it here on screen. We'll see what I get, dealing with you. Drive my blood pressure
It may
up.
go way up.
It might go way up. We'll see.
My wife will tell you that.
But, yeah, these inexpensive, usually covered under most medical plans. You can go to CVS, get them for like $20. Great thing to do every morning when you first wake up. And apparently I have no pulse and no oxygen. So I'm a boring host today. But we'll see. Elderberries.
Elderberry.
I thought this was just a good way to get started. Just one supplement. I know George's going to talk a lot about this as well and what kind of works. Because I just grabbed this because it's got the best marketing in the store. And that's important to know what you are putting into your body. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what would you recommend for, we'll kind of get into like journals. Like if, we talked about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you would recommend, or do you think that's just kind of like a personal choice?
What, the journal?
The journals, yeah.
I think it is a personal choice. I mean, I would recommend it, but again, it's if you're, I'm a person that doesn't journal. Okay. I personally don't journal because I know that I won't stick to it, but I'm a person that's disciplined enough where I kind of know what I know what I'm doing over for years and years. So I'm disciplined enough to stay focused. If I want to have a plan or something like that. Not everybody can do that. Some people feel better with journaling. So I would say it is a personal choice, but I would definitely recommend if somebody can be consistent with it, to definitely do it.
I finally got my readings.
You're alive.
96 or 97 oxygen. And I'm actually surprised. 69 beats per minute. So
look at
nice
you.
And relaxed.
Nice. You see?
And, I usually do this early in the morning.
Right.
And then again in the evening, just, it keeps my mind focused on breathing. Yoga is something actually I want to get into. That's one of my personal questions I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a bit. But yeah, people ask a lot about the journals, and the journals it's a personal preference thing.
Yes.
It's just, you have to make those commitments.
Right.
You just kind of talked about this earlier. What are some ways to help with sugar cravings? I know that's probably big, especially in New York and the United States. We love our sugar. It's built into almost everything.
You're looking at a guy who was a sugar addict when he was a kid. Okay. So I completely, the only good part for me was I was always thin. So I was never going to be the fattest guy around. So, I got away with it, but sugar cravings are tough. They're very, very tough because again, whether it's the soda or whatever it is, you're so used to it for many, many years of dealing with it that it's very difficult. So there are some things you can take that actually help with that, because remember that sugar works on receptors, right? Sugar works on, works in the receptors in the brain. It works with receptors all over your body. Okay. So there are some nutrients that you can use. And I definitely recommend some nutrients if you're having problems with that you can use. One of them, and I'll name them now, but I can tell you where to get them and stuff like that. One of them is called Gymneva sylvestre. Okay. And it's an herb, and it's very good to deal with cravings. Okay. It's a supplement that you can take, with your meals and that type of thing, but it actually works on those receptors and actually calms down the cravings. So that's there's a few things. There's another one called Inula rasmosa. I know it sounds weird, but again, these are things that you can take, and we can put the links on, after the show if you like, but things that you can take in that will definitely help. Another thing is, spacing out your meals. Okay. Yeah. Spacing out your meals, to me, the way I, tell people how to eat. I don't subscribe to necessarily a specific diet, but I subscribe to a way of eating. So I tell people to leave space between their meals, leave 4 or 5 hours between their meals, because that actually calms down the blood sugar. That actually lets the body metabolize everything, lets the blood sugar release from the liver that's stored in the liver to actually keep your energy going. Okay. And that actually, if you do that consistently over time, that will also help with sugar cravings. Okay. But so those are just some tips that that people can follow.
I think it's important too. Like, I learned about this maybe 1 or 2 days while I was in school, and I couldn't even remember what was taught back then. A little bit in the Army, and they really covered it more in detail on the first aid side of how the body works, how adrenaline dumps go. I mean, we're going gung ho. guns blazing, you get shot, don't worry, keep going forward, drive on, drill sergeant. You got shot, drink water, just keep going.
Right.
But now that I've kind of taken some of the group fitness training classes, some self-defense courses, you learn about the ATP and how the body breaks things down.
Yes.
To me, it's like blowing my mind because I feel like a little kid all over again. But not a lot of people are really educated on those types of things.
Right.
So really, really important.
Absolutely.
Lisa's asking, can we pin them in the chat? Lisa, the video will have the description at the end with all of the links, George's website as well. So we'll make sure you get that. Okay. How can we optimize our immune systems? This was a great question. This is your wheelhouse. I'm going to leave this to you, buddy.
This is my wheelhouse. So obviously everybody's dealing with the same stuff today, right? We're dealing with trying to keep ourselves as healthy as possible, trying to keep our systems up. So, well, let's first take a step back a second. Let's look at the immune system. What is the one thing in this whole pandemic that we're dealing with, that the one variable that we can control in this whole pandemic, and that is the immune system? Because the immune system is the only thing that can actually kill a virus, right? Nothing else can really kill a virus, because even if you get a vaccine, the vaccine, what does it do? It trains your immune system to recognize and kill the virus, right? So the one variable is the immune system. So one would think, okay, let's strengthen that part. And this way down the line, if you run into a virus or bacteria, whatever it is, that you'll have a better time of handling it. So first thing you need to do is, number one, first of all, we need to, again, unplug. We need to de-stress. We need to stop watching CNN all day. Stop watching the craziness, okay? Because again, that depresses immunity in and of itself. The fear of something happening actually suppresses immune system, okay? So before you even take anything, you got to definitely do that. Let's de-stress, okay? Now, as far as taking stuff, if there's one thing for your viewers and listeners, if they take away anything, is that you got to get your vitamin D up. That is the number one thing, okay? And I've worked with many, many, many people. I've seen vitamin Ds that are on the floor, okay? Vitamin D is the one main thing that will supercharge your immune system to the point where, and I could, again, this is from a guy who used to get bronchitis every year, okay? And I used to be, out for a week. It really used to do damage, where I don't even get a cold now. Okay. But again, this was because I optimized it. So vitamin D is critical. So I recommend all your listeners and viewers, check your vitamin D. When you go to your doctor, it's a cheap test. Check it, see where the numbers are. If the number's 25, you're way low. Okay. You want that number to be at least 50.
50?
50.
Actually, what is the rating? Because actually, this is the first time I've ever heard of getting a vitamin D test.
Oh yeah, well, most doctors now are wise to vitamin D, so, and it's a cheap test, and it's usually covered by insurance now. So if you go get your basic blood panel, if you don't see vitamin D, or I recommend when you go get your test or your physical, tell your doctor, listen, I want to check my vitamin D. A lot of doctors are doing it now because they're realizing how important it is. Because remember, it's not just about optimizing the immune system. Vitamin D also helps with blood pressure, helps with bones. Okay, it helps with cognitive thinking. Okay, there's so many things that it does, but really optimizing immunity is the number one thing. Okay, so again, above 50 is the mark that you're looking for. So, and it's a little bit different for anyone. I take 5,000 units every day.
Okay.
All right. I know a lot of people say, well, you can get it from sun, and you can, but there's a couple of caveats to that, because remember, number one, if you're putting on a ton of lotion, you're not going to get it. Number two, if you're dark, like a guy like me, it takes more because of my skin pigment. Okay. So, that's an issue also, right? And then you got to remember that in the winter, vitamin D goes down. Why? Because we're home. We have coats on when we go out. We're in close quarters. We're not getting a lot of sun. So vitamin D kind of crashes. So my suggestion would be, we're going to be going into the winter months soon. Start taking your vitamin D, get it tested, and then start taking it on a regular basis.
A question came up from Melanie, who's actually a good friend of mine. like I said, a lot of interesting information here on vitamin D. Says that she's always tired. Would that be due to having low vitamin D?
It can be, yes. It absolutely can be. And again, I would have your vitamin D checked by your doctor, see where your number is. And you have to, with this business of self-health that I call it, you have to be a little bit of a detective. You have to kind of, say, okay, what, also look at what you're doing. Are you sleeping enough? What are you eating? That type of thing. You may be deficient in other things. You may be deficient in magnesium. You may be deficient in calcium. You may be deficient in B vitamins, which are good for energy. So these are the things that you have to take a look at. So, again, check your vitamin D level and then, go from there.
You mentioned earlier about being as close to natural as possible. I joke around, I got the elderberries. I have a bunch of vitamin D and a lot of new stuff now. Would you recommend supplements like these, or a multivitamin, herbs? What would you recommend?
I always start at the basics with everyone. Okay. Because, I know it's hard for people to hear, but it's very, very difficult, almost impossible to get all the nutrients you need from your food. Okay. The way your body works is your body runs on nutrition. Okay. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids. That's what runs your body. Those are cofactors for enzymes in your body to make things work. Okay. So this is why doctors will tell you, eat 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables a day. Why? Because you get the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, those types of things. The problem is that the way food is grown, the way food is cooked, okay, and the stress that we're under, and also we're not digesting properly. All those things play a factor in you not digesting all the nutrients that you get from your food. So I always recommend basics, multivitamin, just to as insurance. But make sure you're getting enough of those nutrients, and a vitamin D to make sure your immune system is optimized. Those are the first things I start with. Then if someone has an issue that they're dealing with, then we go up from there, and we may add something and that type of thing.
Got it. Good questions just rolling in. Just keep them coming. These are really good questions. What about someone, Lisa, what about someone like her that has a sensitive stomach to lots of pills? I totally agree. Like, joking around, like, these are soft gels. I can do these. They're not that big. I get the same way. After one or two, I'm like ready to throw it up, or I can't swallow it. Like, right. I just have a very difficult time swallowing it and keeping it down. What would you recommend? Like,
well, first of all, you have to, if you have a sensitive stomach, first of all, you have to look at a couple of things. How are you taking the supplements? Are you taking them on an empty stomach, or are you taking them with food? Makes a big difference. If you're taking them with food, it's mixing with the stomach acid and all the food in there. That's less of an issue as far as sensitivity. Okay, that's number one. Second thing is, if you're getting a reaction from those specific pills, whichever pills you're taking, then we got to look at changing them. Okay, so it could be that there's fillers, because remember, not all supplement companies are the same. Some of them will put fillers, some of them will put junk in it. Okay, so if you're getting your vitamin, if you're getting your vitamins from the nearest pharmacy, I can tell you right now, they put a lot of fillers in those things.
It's funny, as you were, talking about this, I was looking at mine on ingredients. So for elderberry, there is soybean oil, okay, vegetable glycerin, which I know what that is, caramel color, obviously for the coloring, make it look nice and fancy.
Right.
Then there's a couple of things I can't even pronounce here. Metronidazole, and soy lecithin, which I've never heard before.
Soy lecithin, yeah.
There you go. It's that Brooklyn accent. But it's important, right, to look at the labels, not just on your supplements, but food as well.
Exactly. The problem is that, again, a lot of people don't know. They just think, okay, maybe their doctor told them, oh, get a vitamin D, get a multivitamin or whatever, go to your nearest store. So they don't know. They go there and they just grab the nearest thing that looks good. But they don't realize that there's a lot of fillers in there that can contribute to a sensitive stomach. And, they also, again, they don't even know how to take them. Okay. That's why you got guys like me, the nutritionists and the dietitians, these folks who actually, we're experts at, okay, this is how you should take that. This is what you should do in that case. And also, if you're sensitive to pills, there's liquid forms of a lot of these things now. Okay, so some you can put them in your juice, you can put them in whatever you're drinking, and just take it that way, and that also helps with the absorption as well.
Awesome. Little Fit Devil, how are you? Really cool person I know on Instagram. As a doctor, knows a lot, very knowledgeable. Just want to thank everybody for joining again. Like, share, subscribe, do all the crazy YouTube things you're supposed to do. I appreciate all the questions. Really good forum here. I didn't know that you can take supplements in liquid form. I always thought they were like gels or soft gels.
No, there's a lot. I mean, you have tablets, you have capsules, you have liquid form. They even have a patch now. There's some that come in a patch form that goes directly into the bloodstream. I mean, the supplement industry is such a huge industry now, and they're finding new ways to get so people can take it who have sensitivities and that type of thing, and it makes it a little bit easier for them.
I know just for me personally, fish oil. I'm not a big fan of it. I was told you better start taking it now because you haven't in a while. That's one of those pills. It's just a big pill. I can't just get it down for some reason. It just doesn't taste well too when you bite on it.
Yeah, fish oil, depending on where you get it, it can be a big pill. It's a tough one. Now there are fish oil small gels that they make. And I can put a link to anybody who's interested in that.
Sure.
Tell them exactly where to get them. But again, I work with a company that specializes in fish oils. It's a Norwegian company that actually that's their focus, is making the best fish oil on the planet. So I always recommend that because it doesn't have a fishy taste. You can get the small ones that just digest very easy, and they're very, very effective. Now, fish oil is fantastic for inflammation, whether it's dealing with the heart, whether it's dealing with the joints. Okay, it produces a hormone called prostaglandins, which actually helps with inflammation. Fish oil is very, very important, and most people are deficient because unless you're eating fish 2 or 3 times a week, you're not getting enough of the omega-3. So fish oil is a great way to do that.
Melanie had asked the same kind of question that I was asking for me. What about fish oils? She doesn't eat any that live in the ocean. There are many different types of fish oils to take. I didn't know that either. I was just told take this one and go out the door. And I think that's also too of who you're speaking to.
Right.
When I brought this up, I was just with my general doctor for my annual, in and out the door within 10 minutes. So when people have these questions, who should they really be speaking to? Like in my world, I would go to someone like you, who's a nutritional specialist, someone who specializes in nutrition.
Right. That's yeah. If you're dealing with nutrition, you got to go to a nutritionist, someone like me, or who are a wellness specialist, something like that. The problem is when you go to your doctor, and a lot of people think that doctors are nutritionists, and they're not. Not that, nothing against doctors. Doctors do a fantastic job, and they're, they deal with a lot in their practice. The problem is doctors have very little training in nutrition. Okay. They're more taught, the pharmacological side, the diagnostic side, those types of things. And, they're not going to sit there for you for an hour to talk about nutrition. Yeah. So that's why you want to go to a nutritionist, and they'll show you exactly what you need to. A dietitian will do something similar to that, talk about what the best things to eat, supplements if they're needed, and go from there.
And you hit something really right on the nose. Like there are specialists for everything.
Right.
When you normally go for your checkup, or if you've got a cold, you're not feeling well, you got to remember those doctors, they have probably 15, 20, 30 other patients behind you.
Exactly.
As well as the rest of the day. So they're trying to focus on what your issue is, get you the help you need, and then go to the next one as well. So exactly. You want to get the right specialist.
Absolutely.
Lisa's got like the number one questions today. We like Lisa. This is another one. If you learn to read, Charlie Mack, if your omega-3 is fine out of blood work, can you still take it in other benefits for fish oil for inflammation?
Yeah. So if you're well, first of all, not a lot of doctors check omega-3 in the blood work. Okay, it's one of those tests that's not a routine test. Not necessarily. It doesn't. You can have a doctor that checks it. Problem is that it's sometimes it's covered, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you may have to go to what's called a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath. Those do more vitamin, mineral testing, omega-3 testing, those types of things. So it depends who you go to. Okay, now if your omega-3 status is fine, should you take a fish oil? If you're dealing with inflammation, but your omega status is fine, and then I would say yes. You can take some more fish oil on top of it. Um, you have to kind of play with it because, again, the issue with fish oil, you have to kind of, it's a little bit different than what we're all taught, right? Let's say you take a pharmaceutical, you take one pill and everything works. Well, with fish oil, you have to stay on these things. It's not, it's not going to be, the inflammation is not going to go away in a week. You've got to stay long term on these things because that's how this works. So it's very important.
So a lot of these supplements are there just to kind of build up your immune system to KO those bad things that are coming out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got it. Really good to know. Just something I always tell people, and obviously it seems like common sense, but you got to take care of yourselves. Think from the top down, bottom up, however you think about it.
Yeah.
Everything is connected.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
And at the end of the day, it goes all right to the heart.
Keep
your circulation going, keep your body moving. And then your mind. You've mentioned this already a bunch of times. Like, go off the grid. Go for a walk to the park. Maybe just grab your tunes, put them on, and just get off the grid for a little bit. Stop with the emails, video games. Still watch YouTube. Watch us so you can get the video. But
yes,
just kind of disconnect every now and then too. You mentioned something earlier just about owning your space. I remember, like, in school and even after school, if you didn't have TV or anything, you just sit in a quiet room and just read or just disconnect, from everything for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I do that as much as I can, and I find that, I live kind of out in the country, I was in the city life. So I was used to that hustle and bustle, that fast paced thing. And then, now that I've come out into the country, it was an adjustment for me. But then I said, but now when I walk out in my backyard and everything's quiet and I can sit there and I could just calm and I can, decompress. And it really does help because you're not hearing sirens, you're not hearing all this craziness. And it makes such a big difference because, you can actually, you could actually find space in between your thoughts.
Yes.
Which is very key.
I've tried to get into that habit recently, of just unplug everything, shut everything off, turn off the TV and computer, just kind of chill out in the living room, quiet, put the dog in the other room.
Right.
It's hard, especially in the city.
It is hard.
Sirens, kids screaming,
yes.
the squirrel jumping off the tree. But you're right. You go to the park or just somewhere where it's nice and quiet, you feel different.
Oh yeah.
We live off of energy. And one of the questions I was going to ask in this segment, because I was in martial arts for a bit, I'd kind of like to transition to yoga, be a little more peaceful. What would you recommend? Would that be something good? Or how do you get into it, I guess?
I was doing yoga for over 10 years. Okay. And I went to classes. When the Indian guru, would come and do a class here, he would come from India and I would take his class. I was like really heavily into it. Yoga is amazing. It's an amazing practice because after you do it for a certain period of time, just by default, it'll actually help. You'll see that you react differently in situations. Okay. I used to be more of a driven guy. I would snap quickly at certain things. I just had a little more of a type A type of personality when I was younger. After yoga, I tell you what, it's a completely different feeling. You're literally calm. You just, and your whole body's calm. It's not just your mind, but obviously, again, like you said, it's connected, right? You have a calm body, you have a calm mind. So, it is amazing. I would definitely recommend, if you have a class near you, take a class, start it. They have beginners classes all over the place. I remember this in the city, they had them all over the place, right? I took many classes in the city, but also YouTube. YouTube has many classes, beginners classes. Start with a 15-minute class, try it and see if it's something you like, and then gradually progress. Go to a 30-minute class and go from there. Eventually you'll be doing an hour class. And you'd be surprised at how addictive it can be because there's a feeling you get after you do it. It's almost like a high. And the runners I know talk about it a lot. They get that runner's high, right? Well, in yoga, you can actually get that high after you do yoga. It's very, very interesting.
It's funny. It's like a dichotomy. Just because of the work that I deal with, law enforcement, fire department, EMS, emergency services, a lot of the focus is on self-defense. And as soon as you get into those classes, it's, punch, kick, grab this guy, and your mind gets kind of in that mindset, like I'm gonna, just always be ready, and you get into that preparedness mode, but anxious mindset, like you're always driven. PTSD comes with a lot of individuals coming from law enforcement, military, and you're just kind of always in that red zone of what do I have to worry about. So it's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to get into yoga a little bit, kind of calm the energy down a little bit. And
absolutely.
Any other questions coming in? I got a couple more. Oh, sorry, Lisa. This I overlooked in regards to inflammation.
Inflammation of the intestines. I guess he's talking about the fish oil.
Fish oils, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, inflammation of the intestines. The intestines is a little tricky because you got to remember that the intestines is constantly digesting food, right? So there's a lot of work going on in the intestines, on a regular basis. So it's a little trickier minefield when you're dealing with it, but it definitely can help, with inflammation. You got to remember that inflammation is the root of all disease. Yeah. Every single disease has its root in inflammation. Okay. So taking a fish oil or taking antioxidants in general, right, from fruits and vegetables, those types of things, even from supplements, those things are designed to lower the inflammation. You lower the inflammation, you bring in the good stuff, you're putting the odds in your favor to live more healthier and happier lifestyle.
Awesome. As we come to a close, I always like to bring up our rapid fire Q&A time. So
I like the
this
music.
is the awesome. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Is everything related to you? So the people get to know George. So first one, the better workout. What do you recommend? Push-ups or jumping jacks?
I like push-ups.
All right. Better breakfast meal, oatmeal or grits?
I'm an oatmeal guy.
Awesome. Tastier juice, orange juice or grape juice?
I like grape juice.
Better to relax, get a back rub or get a foot massage?
I honestly would say foot massage.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it affects the whole body.
Top down, top up, absolutely. Which is more gross? Eat meat with sugar or eat cake with salt? Because they're both gross.
Yeah, it's very true. For me, eat meat with sugar.
Makes you think what you're putting in your body.
It does.
Better date idea: picnic in the park or sunbathe on the beach?
Oh,
it's hard, depending on, I guess, what beach.
Depending on if you're going to a beach that's crappy, I think you have a better chance of getting a nice park. So I'll say picnic in the park if I make the lunch.
Fourth, picnic in the park for $500. Yeah, it depends on what you bring too.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the better berry? Strawberry or blueberry?
Blueberry, absolutely.
Absolutely, I totally agree. What's more fun, biking or swimming?
I mean, if it's a personal question, I'm a big biker. I love biking.
I gotta say, I think just living in the city, I'd go for swimming just because we don't get a chance to do it as often.
True.
Biking's definitely a fun activity. Right up your alley, my friend. Better space franchise, Star Wars or Star Trek?
I gotta say Star Trek because I know Star Wars is more popular in general, but for me, I'm a Star Trek guy. I mean,
and your fans on your page would go right after you if you turned on it. I know that.
They're all nerds.
Hey, better superhero, Batman or Superman?
I love Batman.
Yeah, you know where I stand on that issue.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. If you guys have any other questions, post them now. I'll pin them. Just want to put up the information again because I know people have asked. George, tell them a little bit about your website. I know you can get a newsletter on there, information at your fingertips. I say it's a great place to read on the bus and train back and forth to work.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about your website, what you have there, and about your podcast.
Yeah, so my website is basically, again, it's a health education website. Okay, so it has many articles. I post articles, pretty much 2 or 3 articles a week, and that goes along with my podcast. So my podcast is called Wellness Talk. I talk about supplements. I talk about just health tips in general. You can download the podcast at Spotify or Google Podcasts, and in any of the articles that I go over, you can read them. If you would like to read them for yourself, they're on the website. And also, the website does include my supplement recommendations. So it'll take you right to the websites where you can find the supplements that I always recommend. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll be glad to help you and give you some tips.
PlatinumNutritionals.com, folks, check it out. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You just go to the website, punch it in. It doesn't cost a thing. We talked a little bit about mental health and wellness. Very important for those folks in New York City. Wanted to make sure that you had the number available, 888-692-9355 for those folks who need it. Once again, I started to create this to help all those security officers, law enforcement folks, military people, fire personnel. It's just the wheelhouse I live in with emergency management. Just getting them on the right track. I know, especially in New York, people are very busy. Sometimes we've got to take a step back and take care of ourselves first. I always tell people, spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. George, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. First in the series, man. This episode, hopefully it goes viral. Share it with everybody. There are no more questions, so spread love. It's the Brooklyn way.
Appreciate you.
Have a good night, everybody.